Hi everyone, and welcome to my guide for the LoD HotA Barbarian in Season 27. This is one of the best builds in the season. It is already quite powerful on the live servers, but with the new seasonal theme powers, it really gets to another level. In fact, there are two different seasonal theme powers that can be used with this build for various setups and for various circumstances. The one you see here now is the Whirlwind Pull power that is really good to group up enemies, and especially when you're doing pushes like this, you can whirl around, everything gets dragged with you as you go, and this allows you to profit a lot more from area damage and just clear the whole rift way faster. The same power is also used in various other Barb builds and even on some support Barb variations. So the support Whirlwind Barb is actually a thing now, and here in solo pushing. So you can see it really works well. You can drag enemies basically forever, make the largest pulls ever, and you see me here blasting through a GR145, no problem with this build. There's also a second seasonal theme power dedicated to Hammer of the Ancients only, and that one is used in group setups, in particular in speeds, and also in Foreman 150 pushing, for example. This is going to be one of those trash killer builds that can carry the entire team, and it's going to be part of the meta XP farming setups combined with an Impale Demon Hunter, for example, or part of the meta GR150 teams, also combined either with an Impale Demon Hunter for the boss or a Roughman Necromancer. You're going to see the Shockwave in action in a second in some other footage, but the only real competition that this build has is the Nova Necro. So there's Dragul and LoD Nova. Those are also the contenders for 150s, for trash clearing, but in general it's looking really good for Barbarians this time around. Here you see some solo speed farming with the Shockwave power. This is also a similar setup that will be used in groups, and it's already pretty powerful. It will beat the Raker Barb by a slight margin, and it really pops off in groups, because the one weakness that this build has is the boss damage. If you go too high, then the boss just takes too long and it's not really worth it. But as I mentioned, if you combine this with something like an Impale Demon Hunter, you can go really fast. You have really good boss damage anyway from the other player, and you can really use the power of the Shockwave and of the build in general to go to like even 120s, 125s in like 2-3 minutes or so in a team on the higher end. So this is how good it is. It will beat the rats, and as I mentioned, it will even go all the way to 150 as a trash killer. So this is how strong this season theme is. So let's jump into the defeat planners. I have some freshly baked setups here. We have the solo push that is shown with the Whirlwind power, and we have the speed setups with the HotA power and also the trash killer with the HotA power. So there are a few different variations. Let's go. The main item in this build is Remorseless. So you try to get a really good roll of this. You want to wear this, and it gives you a massive damage buff while Wrath of the Berserker and Call of the Ancients are active. So this is the condition to make the whole build work. This means you need to stack quite a bit of cooldown reduction, and we use the Zodiac to reset our cooldowns. So this can be done with Whirlwind, this can be done with HotA, in some cases both at the same time even. And you generally try to just attack often enough to reset your Wrath and your Call of the Ancients. And to make this easier, we have the Boon of Blockaders passive, which reduces the cooldowns. Then we have the Braces of the First Men. This is just the HotA Bracer, it's more damage, faster attack speed, so you punch really fast. And the Gavel of Judgment, this is the third HotA puzzle piece that gives you even more damage and Fury recovery when you hit 3 of your enemies. So like this, it's very easy to keep up your resources, you can just hammer away and don't really have to worry about it. There's also the Fury of the Ancient Shoulder. This one helps you out with even more Fury recovery, because every time your Ancients attack, you also get some Fury back. And obviously this is an LoD build, so you need to level that gem first. It's very important, and you want to have Ancient items in every slot. And we can combine this with the typical LoD like toughness choices, like Aquila, like Stone Gauntlets and Ice Climber combo. There's a Black Form Pants, a Witching Hour. So this is just like very typical stuff here. A Loic's Crown for even more cooldown reduction. And we have an Echoing Fury that whenever you start killing enemies, you really pop off with even more DPS. And this combines really well with Ruthless. So as you finish off enemies during your convention cycle, as you get Echoing Fury procs, as everything is low HP with Ruthless, you get a massive multiplier. And then you have Battle Rage, Bloodshed to like explode everything around you. So this is kind of like the combo here. In speed setups, this changes a little bit. So you want to replace a bit of the toughness, for example, the stone gauntlets with a St. Archers to protect your squirt's necklace. There's also a molten wildebeest here to help with that as well. So you're generally expected to have rather high uptime of squirt's necklace here. There's also the Cinder Coat, but if you're feeling a bit squishy or dropping your squirt's necklace too much and everything just hits through your shields, you can go back to your killer there. And it's just in general a slightly faster setup. So in a solo push, we move around with the whirlwind as you have seen in the intro. So there is no mobility skill. Instead, we have the ground stomp, deafening crash to proc the Band of Might. And in speeds, you go with the charge. So this will proc your Band of Might here. And it can include another utility skill for your party, like a sprint or a war cry or even threatening shout. So this can be swapped around a little bit, depending on if you're alone, if you want more speed or more damage or something like that. And you move around just with the charge. So you try to go faster. And as I mentioned, in groups, you can go way higher. You see here, this is 128. And we are absolutely annihilating this because of the insane power of this build. And finally, here's the 4-man trash killer version. This one also uses the Shockwave HotA power. So same as in speeds, you just annihilate everything with the Shockwave. It goes like the entire screen and does like 10 times the damage of a normal attack. You get some massive bloodshed procs around you when that happens. Now there is a thing that this Shockwave actually worked really weird on the PTR, and this might get changed for live server or it might not. But basically the way the Shockwave works is that it scales with the element of your HotA rune, which is generally fire, because that's the highest damage rune. And we also put fire damage on our items. But it does get increased from the convention of elements on the physical cycle. So this means that you have kind of like 2 DPS windows that are like delayed a little bit. So you have one on the fire cycle and another one on the physical cycle. And in fact, you can make it so that you can kind of like stack up 9 out of 10 of those attacks before you trigger a shockwave, before the physical convention. Then you attack once, you get the shockwave, and then you can attack 10 more times during that window to get a second shockwave in this 4 seconds of the convention of elements cycle. So in 4-man, this is a bit more complicated if you really want to like get the most out of it. And there is yet another mechanic to use here that will improve your damage even further. And that one is the Zay Stone of Vengeance. So you can actually attack and proc the shockwave, and if you're prepared for it, it can charge away before the shockwave actually deals its damage, because it has like this kind of like 1 second expanding animation and only then deals damage to everything. So you can charge away from the center of the pool to stack up the Zays, and then you can charge back in, attack 10 more times, and when the second shockwave comes, you charge out again for another big burst. So this is kind of how you want to play it optimally. Now obviously this requires you to really pay attention to what you're doing, and it's not really beginner friendly at all. So there is also the option to just go with a pain enhancer. This is typically the choice for like an easier version of this. Or again, you can go for like a very tanky setup and try with Molten Wildebeest and an Aquila Kiras to protect your squirt's necklace, to sometimes get a bit of a damage bonus there as well. Lastly, some final notes about the gearing of this build. First of all, Maximum Fury is quite good. So if you can roll that, for example, on the Mighty Weapon and also in your Paragons, you want to put it, because Hammer of the Ancients has some extra crit scaling depending on the amount of Fury you have. In fact, we have so much crit that in groups, when you have a support Demon Hunter with Ice Blink and a Molded Shot, you get 18% extra crit. And with the Wrath of the Berserker up, with this extra crit from the skill itself, you have over 100% crit chance. So you can give up some crit chance, for example, on the Amulet and get area damage there, or on the gloves as well. And this also pretty much concludes the guide. So one last thing I want to mention is that there's also an Immortal King HotA build that will be almost equally powerful in Season 27, because it has the same mechanics, it has the same powers, and it basically works the same, just with like way easier cooldown requirements. So this might be something to get started with Hammer of the Ancients, in case you're not really getting the right gear early on, because you're not really getting the right ancient items, the right cooldown reduction. So it might be a bit rough to get started, basically. And you can try to get the Immortal King set up together, which is almost one-to-one the same, just with the set. And there is not really a T16 version of this. HotA is not really great as a T16 farming build, So I would just recommend to stick to the Waste set or to Frenzy for that. Those usually work the best in tier 16, and just reserve HotA for GRs. But you can do it if you want, it's just going to be a bit clunky with the small AoE. And this is it. So hope you enjoyed this guide. I wish you good luck in season 27. I think it's going to be great for the Barbarians. In fact, our team is most likely going to have that one as well. And yeah, Barbarians, DPS in 4-man, who could have seen that coming? But here we are. So gonna be a really fun season. I'm looking forward to it. Hope you are too. Subscribe for more DFE content, and I'll see you guys next time.